Hello debater and the audience, a very good afternoon to all of you. Today we are debating on the motion that shadow education is a bad thing for education system. Before we begin, let me define the key term in the motion. According to Khmer dictionary, shadow education refers to private supplementary tutoring that students receive outside irregular school hour, often in subjects that already touch in school. Ladies and gentlemen, we on proposition side stand strongly to believe that shadow education is a bad thing for education system. Well, before I dive in this motion, let me quickly introduce my team first. My name is Boromai. I am the first speaker of the proposition side. Hoylin, she is our second speaker. She is responsible for the second argument. And our last speaker is Mui. She is responsible for the last main argument. Now let's begin to my first main argument. Shadow education harms student well-being and mental health. Is extra tutoring helping students or just making them more stressed? Many students attend tutoring in the evening and even on weekend. This means that they always go to school during the day and then stop it. As a result, students become overworked and exhausted. They don't have enough time to sleep, rest, play, or enjoy their family time. Students may also feel a lot of pressure. Their parents and teachers want high score. If they don't do well, they feel sad or like they are not good enough. This can lead to stress, anxiety, and sometimes even depression. In South Korea, students go to school during the day and then go to private tutoring called Hangbon. A UNICEF study found that students in South Korea have the highest level in the world. Many of them feel tired, pressure, and unhappy every day. Is this the kind of education we want? We don't think so. It may look helpful on the outside, but inside it's great unhealthy pressure, emotional stress, and take away their happiness. That is why we on proposition side stand strongly to believe that shadow education is a bad thing for education system. And I have one quote to share from a study on the tutor once remind us, when kids are constantly pushed into tutoring classes, they might start to believe that they are not good enough or capable on their own. Thank you for your listening to my speaking. Thank you.
Good evening, honorable judges, our respected principal, teachers, and especially my dearest proposition team. And a warm greeting to all who is attending here today. Now, let me begin by asking you all a simple question. Do you believe that extra learning outside of school makes students weaker, or does it actually make them stronger? We, the opposition team, strongly oppose to the motion that this House believes that shadow education is a bad thing for the education system. We disagree because shadow education is actually a valuable and necessary part of a student journey. It is a powerful tool that fills gap in traditional learning, helps students reach their full potential, and prepares them for a competitive world. We are here to argue that the so-called shadow actually makes our education system stronger, not weaker. Before I begin my main argument, allow me to introduce my teammate first. I am here the first speaker who will be responsible on the first main argument. Our second speaker is Ranait, who will be responsible on the second main argument. Lastly, we have Simoy as our third speaker, who will be responsible on the third main argument. Before I move on, let me clear up something my opponent just said. The first speaker mentioned that we can study or tutoring causes stress and anxiety. However, this point is not strong because stress does not only come from homework or study. Blaming weekend study alone is unfair. In fact, weekend study or tutoring builds discipline, resilience, and prepares them for future challenges. So instead of weakening students by reducing study time, we should encourage them to develop strong study habits that will reduce long-term stress. Now, let's move on to our first main argument. Shadow education helps students who struggle in class by giving them a second chance to learn and catch up. Firstly, not all students learn at the same speed. In big classroom, teachers cannot always explain everything to every student. Moreover, some are shy to ask questions, while others simply need more time to understand. As a result, if they don't get help, they will fall behind. But in shadow education, they get another chance to review, ask questions, and learn at their own pace. Consequently, this helps them catch up, build confidence, and stay motivated. For example, a student may find math lesson in school too fast and confusing. In contrast, in shadow education, the tutor can slow things down, explain step by step, give them extra practice, and answer all the questions. This not only helps them understand better, but also build confidence and help them stay motivated. Even UNESCO reported in 2018 that students who join after school tutoring improve their exam results compared to students who only depend on classroom teaching. Therefore, this clearly shows that weekend study is not a waste of time. It actually helps students' success. As George Evans once said, every student can learn, just not on the same day or in the same way. From the beginning to the end, we still strongly oppose to the motion that shadow education isn't a bad thing for the education system. Thank you.
Should success in school be determined by money instead of hard work? Honorable judges, respected teachers, fellow debaters, and ladies and gentlemen, I stand as the second speaker from the proposition team to strengthen our case. Shadow education is a bad thing for education system because it creates inequality and gives unfair advantage to those who can't afford it. However, before I dive into my main argument, let me reflect on what was missing from the first speaker of the opposition side first. She claimed that shadow education helps students to catch up and give them a second chance. While I respect her point, but she overlooked an important issue. Shadow education only helps students who can pay. Many talented students from poorer families are left behind. Instead of supporting school to give every student equal chance, it divides students. Some move ahead with tutoring while others are left struggling. And even for students who attend extra classes, does not always mean they understand better because the quality can be different. Some students still struggle. This created stress, frustration, and a sense of failure among the students who work hard but cannot access extra help. So, is it fair that a child's success depends on family wealth rather than talent and effort? Ladies and gentlemen, that is why shadow education is harmful. Honorable judges, ladies and gentlemen, let me present my main argument. To begin with, shadow education does not reward talent, effort, or dedication. Instead, it rewards wealth, turning an education into a system where money, not ability, decided who's success. Students who cannot afford extra classes are forced to compete into a system stacked against them, leaving them frustrated, demotivated, and often behind. A true education is meant to give every student equal chance based on effort and ability. When success depends on money, then education is no longer serving its own purpose. Evidence clearly shows this inequality. According to UNESCO reports that students from affluent families are 4 to 5 times more likely to attend extra classes than poorer students. In South Korea, Hagwons allow wealthy students to gain academic advantage while other students from less wealthier families are left behind. And based on an organization that works to end injustice and inequality, also points out, Oxfam that points out, when good education can only be accessed by family with money. It's undermine the social mobility. It's ensure that if you born poor, you and your children will die poor, no matter how hard you work. So let me ask, if the gap between rich and poor continues to grow, how can our country truly develop? Can an education succeed if only a few students access its best opportunity? And when our education system becomes into a privilege instead of a right, what hope do we have for the future through equality? Shadow education does not promote learning. It divides students, reward privilege, and undermine the fairness. It's not only just divide our students, it also divide our society as well. For the sake of equality, justice, and for our future education system, we must believe on this motion. Shadow education is a bad thing for education system. Thank you.
Respected honorable judges, teacher, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Renette, the second speaker from opposition team. And today, I'm stand here strongly opposed to the motion. This help believe that shadow education is a bad thing for the education system. But before moving to our second main argument, give me a minute to point out some flaw from the first speaker and the second speaker from my dear proposition side. As a first speaker has mentioned that focusing on the positive aspect of hard work, that is cool, intense studying while demanding can also be incredibly rewarding. The described line and perseverance that students develop are valuable skills that go beyond just getting a good grades. The pursuit of excellence can be a powerful motivator, and achieving top marks can boost a student confidence and open up future opportunities. And also the second speaker has mentioned that private tutoring can be a tool for equity. Well, it's true that not everyone can afford private tutoring. It's not solely a tool for the wealthy. It can be also be vital resource for students from less privileged background who need extra support to catch up or keep pace with their peers. For this student, private tutoring can be a bridge that helps them overcome gaps in their public schooling, ultimately creating a more level playing field. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's move to our second main argument. And our second main argument focuses on compensate for gaps in mainstream education.
Shadow education can serve as a mirror to formal system, highlighting its deficiencies. It provides a means for students to fill in knowledge gaps, get personal life attention, and learn at their own pace. For struggling students, it can offer the one-on-one support they need to catch up with their peers. For boosting their confidence and academic performance. For high achievers, it provides an opportunity to be challenged with high achievers beyond the pace of the regular classroom. For example, a student who struggles with maths in a large, crowded classroom can get the one-on-one tutoring. This personal life attention helps them understand concepts at their own pace, fill in knowledge gaps, and catch up with their peers. According to a study in Germany, found that shadow education is primarily used by disadvantaged educational strata to deal with higher demands in school, suggesting it can serve a compensatory role. For students who are struggling, tutoring helps them eliminate learning deficiencies and boost their academic credential. From the beginning till the end, we are strongly opposed to the motion. Shadow education isn't a bad thing for the education system. But before I end my speech, I would like to drop you one quote from Mr. Max Bray. He said that shadow education can compensate for weaknesses in mainstream schooling, providing opportunities for students to catch up or move ahead. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered why formal school and teachers who are supposed to guide and strengthen education are sometimes seen as being weakened instead? This is key issues I will discuss today. With that said, as the last speaker of the proposition team, I would like to show my respect to the honorable judges, the opposition team, and all the audience. Before proceeding to explain and emphasize my point on why we strongly propose the motion, this House believes that shadow education is a bad thing for education system. I intend to present a few remarks and pose a question to the opposition team. They mentioned that shadow education compensates for gap in mainstream education, but if there are gaps, the solution should be to improve school and support teachers, not rely on expensive tutoring. Shadow education creates dependency where students expect answer of thinking for themselves. It also respect away from school teachers, making formal education less valuable. And let me ask, is shadow education really solve the problem? Why do the gap in mainstream schools still exist? In reality, it's only benefit wealthy family and encourage inequality. Instead of filling gap, it's make them even bigger. After that, let everybody knows my important main point. Shadow education weaken formal school and teacher. When students rely on private tutor to understand lesson, they may start to dupe or ignore the teaching in school. This reduces the respect and attention given to teacher, making classroom learning less effective. Over time, schools lose their central role in education because students start seeing that learning in the classroom with teacher explanation is not as clear or detailed as during after-school lesson. This creates a serious problem by reducing teacher authority and lowering the value of formal school. According to OECD 2019 report show that in countries with widespread private tutoring, students often focus on study, on exam-oriented learning rather than the full school curriculum. This relies on shadow education, reduce engagement in classroom, lesson, and teacher authority. In South Korea and Japan, where shadow education very common, research shows that students who rely heavily on private tutoring often skip fully engaging in school lessons. While shadow education may have a few students temporarily, it harms the education system as a whole, weakening teacher, widening inequality, and prioritizing for short-term results for over true learnings. As an educator perspective, in a study once said, the popularity of private tutoring is making kids' academic performance causal, their uniqueness and creativity are being destroyed by a lack of independence on tutorial. For the good of all the students and the integrity of our school, we must propose to the motion and recognize shadow education as a negative force. Thank you.
Greeting to the friends of all, ladies and gentlemen, including the judges, the audience, and hello, my dear proposition team. I am the last speaker of opposition team. Today, our team strongly opposes against the motion. This house believes that shadow education is a bad thing for the education system. But before I head you anything, I would like to give rebuttal to the all member of proposition team to prove that their ideas are not enough convincing to me. Start Starting with the first speaker, she said they don't have enough time to sleep, play, or relax. Many of them feel stressing every day. I know that the students don't have too much free time if they go to extra classes, but I wonder why doesn't the formal system provide adequate and comprehensive education during regular school hours? If the school education provides students with a perfect and detailed explanation, students will not have to sacrifice free time for extracurricular activities. Next, the second speaker, she said shadow education does not reward talent, effort, and dedication. Instead, it rewards well. That's an interesting perspective, but I disagree. Shadow education isn't a simple equation of wealth equals success. Instead, it's a hybrid system where money acts as a powerful enabler. It provides access to better opportunities, but it doesn't guarantee success. The student talent, effort, and dedication remain the essential ingredient for turning that opportunity into a tangible outside. And the last one, the third speaker of proposition team say, shadow education undermines respect for the school teacher. I don't think it's rooted. There are at least 40 students in the class, but one teacher cannot manage all the students in the class and make sure everyone understands. It is clear that some students may not have learning or understood clearly, so they decide to study further. This is not disrespectful to the teacher, but rather a way for students to find additional study tips to explain their knowledge. And now, let's head to my main argument. Firstly, I want to make it clear that shadow education isn't a competitor to formal education. It's an invaluable complement, and this additional learning is a good thing for the education sector because in other advanced countries, supplementary teaching is also available. The founder of Startup Community Coaching School said that part-time learning is not a bad thing because all countries that are developing in the education sector, such as United States, South Korea, Japan, Singapore, Australia, and China, also have part-time learning because these countries use part-time learning as a factor that motivates students to excel and help students who are not yet learning. Current teaching styles have encouraged students to add to the student. Because the teaching hours of subjects are few in the curriculum and the lessons are many. Therefore, if there is no additional learning, students will not have the opportunity to practice many exercises. For example, in the secondary school for grade 7, 8, and 9, chemistry only have 1 hour in a week, but the lesson have many exercises. If students do not receive additional instruction, students will not be able to grasp as much knowledge as if they were implementing according in the straight curriculum. This means that part-time learning helps promote students practice more and improve their academic results. In conclusion, I believe that shadow education is a good thing for the education system because the quote from Brent Herbert say that the capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. Before I conclude my speech, I want to tell you all one more important thing. Shadow education is not a disease, but a treatment. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. From the beginning till the end of our debate competition, we an opposition team still strongly opposed to the motion. Shadow education isn't a bad thing for the education system because shadow education is seen as a valuable complement to formal schooling, not a competitor. To make it clear, I would like to summarize the 3 main arguments that we mentioned earlier. First, help students catch up. It gives students a chance to review lessons, ask questions, and learn at their own speed. This is especially helpful for those who are shy or learn slower than their friends. Second, fill gaps in mainstream education. It provides a mirror to formal schooling, highlighting where it falls short. It offers personalized attention to help struggling students keep up and challenges high achievers with more advanced material. And the last is enhance formal schooling. This is additional learning is viewed as a good thing for the entire education system as it is a common accepted practice in many developed countries. According to Asian Development Bank on 2012 found that shadow education
should be understood not only as a response for weaknesses in schooling system, but also as a partner in enhancing overall educational quality. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the very start, it has been our position that shadow education undermines the fairness and the integrity of our education system. Think about the countless students burning the midnight oil, attending extra classes, yet still falling behind. This is not because they are incapable, but because shadow education creates a world where only the wealthy can get ahead. It crushes mental health, deepens inequality, and weakens our formal school. As Mr. Mark Brayburn, shadow education maintains and exacerbates social inequality despite the government effort through education system for all agenda and the sustainable development goal to reduce inequality. Research also shows that students in our society heavily reliant on shadow education suffer from higher stress level and limited opportunity. Shadow education does exactly this. It leaves many behind while favoring the few. For the sake of the fairness, for the sake of our students, and for the integrity of education itself, we must stand against shadow education. It is a system that harms more than it helps. Ladies and gentlemen, it's become to the end of my speech. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.